How far would you go to save your people? Queen Esther faced an impossible situation. She could stay silent and let the king's most trusted advisor pay 10,000 talents for the annihilation of the Jews. Or she could risk her own life to try and stop the atrocity. With 750,000 lives at stake, this is the daring story of how one woman's courage and cunning changed the course of history. Before she could become queen, Esther first had to overcome tragedy. When she was a young girl, her mother and father were killed. Thankfully, her older cousin Mordecai was there to take her in. He raised her as if she was his own daughter. But their simple lives would take an unexpected turn. The king was hosting a mighty banquet to show off his immense wealth and power. The finest wine and food were available, with everyone allowed to eat and drink as much as they wanted. However, there was one more thing the king wanted to showcase: the beauty of his wife, Queen Vashti. But she was weary of being leered at by the drunk men, so she refused to attend the party. Enraged at her disobedience, he kicked her out of the palace. But now the king needed to find a new queen. After inviting all the eligible women in the kingdom to his palace, the king was particularly focused on the beauty of Esther. So, he decided to marry her. However, he didn't know that his queen was harboring a big secret. She was a Jew. To celebrate his new queen, the king decided to throw a huge banquet in her honor. But this joyous day soon took a dark turn. While feasting, Mordecai overheard two of the king's officers conspiring to kill the king. Alarmed, he rushed to tell his cousin, Queen Esther, who immediately passed this information to the king. After investigating the threat, the king impaled the officers. Sadly, that wasn't the only threat facing the palace. A charismatic noble named Haman was rising rapidly through the ranks. Soon he was the king's most trusted advisor and one of the most powerful men in the city. As Haman walked through the city, everyone bowed before him. All except for one man, Mordecai. Due to his Jewish faith, he refused to bow to any man. This infuriated Haman, who devised a brutal plan to get revenge on Mordecai. Haman approached the king and convinced him that there was a dangerous group lurking within his kingdom. But Haman told the king not to be concerned. He would pay the royal treasury 10,000 talents and issue a decree to destroy this troublesome group. The king agreed, trusting his advisor to take care of the problem. The next day, Mordecai awoke to concerning news. On the 13th of December, all the Jews in the kingdom would be rounded up and executed. 750,000 lives hung in the balance. Frightened, Mordecai explained the situation to Queen Esther. To save the Jews and herself, she had to come up with a way of getting the king to reverse his decree. So, after 3 days of fasting, she invited the king and Haman to a private banquet. After the feast, Haman was leaving the palace when he saw Mordecai. Again, the devout Jew refused to bow. This was the final straw for Haman. He ordered a huge pole to be built outside his house. The next day, he vowed to ask the king for permission to impale Mordecai on the structure. That night, the king couldn't sleep, so he asked for his royal chronicles to be read. Looking back through his history, He saw that Mordecai had foiled an assassination plot, saving the king's life. Yet he hadn't been honored. Early the next morning, he rectified his mistake, holding a huge parade through the city to celebrate Mordecai. Seeing this, Haman knew his plan to execute Mordecai wasn't going to happen. But that wasn't all. Queen Esther had decided to approach the king, telling him about Haman's evil plan to kill all the Jews. This would include murdering Mordecai and Esther. The king was outraged that Haman had manipulated him and vowed to get revenge. Haman was removed from the palace and impaled on the post that he had intended to use to kill Mordecai. After this, Mordecai was given the authority to reverse Haman's decrees, saving the Jewish people. The king would make Mordecai his new top advisor. Mordecai used his newfound power to ensure that Jews were always protected from danger. This story carries a strong lesson for modern Christians. Even though God didn't directly intervene to save the Jews, He did set a plan in motion to protect them. Like Esther, as long as you have faith and courage, your efforts will eventually be rewarded.